Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Conversations from Stritch. It's great to see all of you, be back with you here on campus after a 2-week hiatus. And I really want to welcome everybody to campus. It's exciting to be here. I'm here with Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost. But, you know, in my opening remarks, I just want to start initially by thanking everyone who made it possible for us to open up for classes this week. There were so many people this summer involved in that, and I hope you know, all the students and their families who are watching appreciate the amazing work that went in to preparing the residence halls, the classrooms, the IT infrastructure behind all of the online courses, and of course the ongoing cleaning that's been happening this week. And we'll talk a little bit more about how the week has gone as we go on. Also wanted to congratulate everybody for getting through, I know it's just Thursday afternoon, but basically getting through the first week. It's very exciting for all of us. We have about 4,000 students on campus in any given week, and that's split up among the 5 days and even some grad small courses over the weekend. But it's just been great to walk around through the hallways and outside and see everybody on campus. So congratulations to everybody for getting through that first week. I also wanted to say as I start, you know, it's kind of a reminder. We're going to talk a little bit more about all the things that we've been doing this week to keep everybody safe, but this weekend is Labor Day weekend. And if you don't know, my background is in religion and theology, and I spent much of my life reflecting on issues of sin and grace, which may not mean much to all of you, but temptation certainly does. And I'm very familiar with the topic of temptation. And so I want to say to everybody that, you know, if there's one message I can leave with you for the weekend for our students, is that if we all stick together and hold each other accountable to the basic guidelines, then we're not going to end up with a huge uptick in cases because of this weekend. But we do have 3 days, and I know you haven't seen your friends, some of you, for 6 months. And so we just want to remind you of how important it is to take care of each other, because our ability to stay on campus residentially, to stay in person in terms of class delivery, and to continue to look forward to things, you know, and it's going to be a varying degree of these things as the fall goes on, but you know, from clubs to organizations to athletics, the possibility that those could happen and happen in somewhat of a routine way is totally dependent on the number of cases we have and our ability to mitigate any spikes that we might have as the fall goes on. So, so kind of excitement on my part, so great to have everybody on campus, and a caution that we've gotten through the first week and it's gone really well, and we have to, you know, stay focused on what we need to do in order to stay in the mode that we're in right now, which is a hybrid mode. So Dr. Sint, it's great to be with you again on Conversations from Stritch. And I know you have some kind of things that you want to talk about in terms of the beginning of the new academic year and how it's gone, and some updates on a few things.
Yes, thank you so much, and it's great to be here with everyone. And I just want to reiterate what President Livingston said about how it's just such a pleasure to be here on campus, seeing the culmination of work that so many different people in so many different offices on campus have put into preparing the campus, and also just to add the faculty who have prepared to teach in an entirely new way are doing it now, and it's just really exciting to see happening. The couple things I want to mention, you know, again, we're in nearing the end of the first week of doing our delivery of our academic experience and our student life experience in a whole new way, and we are, of course, discovering small things as they come up and making corrections in terms of the way rooms are prepared or the way technology is working and so on. And we continue to discover things, and we'll hit our stride on that front, I know, very, very soon, and it's been going great. I want to mention a couple of things. I want to make a couple of announcements and then mention a couple of adjustments we're making policy-wise as we go forward, starting today or tomorrow. And I do have an email to the community coming out probably while we're talking today that will make these things more explicit or more clear. So you can read that to follow up. So as expected, we are fully on campus. So really our second week where we've had residential students on campus in full force. Nearing the end of the first week of instruction. So with many more people coming into contact with the campus, we are hearing about or learning about more positive cases. Tomorrow, just a reminder, we update our annual case tracker every Friday. So I will indicate now that it's likely that in tomorrow's tracker we'll have 12 positive cases this week in combination of students and employees together. And this is a small fraction of our 7,000 member community, but it's also a reminder of our need to be vigilant in support of each other's safety, of our community health, and to resist temptation, as President Livingston mentioned before, over the weekend. It's also, we continue to monitor many metrics in addition to the number of positive cases. We're continuing to speak directly with our Will County health officials in connection to how it's going here on campus, supporting students who are impacted by COVID-19, and planning for future support. The couple things we want to change going forward, really subtle distinctions. I guess it's more about, we just kind of wanted to talk about a couple things that are not really policy changes, but just to say out loud a couple of things as we've been getting questions from the community about what certain rules mean. So first of all, we have in our region a limit in public gatherings of 25. That rule doesn't strictly apply to universities, but we would like to embrace that if it is not a classroom setting, that's a controlled classroom setting, that we will limit any public gatherings to 25 or fewer people who are physically distanced and wearing face coverings. We don't plan to organize meetings of that size, but if there are, as a rule across the campus, that is very much the upper limit of gatherings of people. We want I wrote in my letter today quite a bit, or I at least linked to quite a bit of writing about the face coverings policy, because we've both been walking around campus a lot, and it's been just amazing how thoroughly our community is embracing the face covering policy, and how completely impressed I feel just that there is such a engagement with understanding how important that is. There's just a couple of really tiny distinctions we want to make going forward that people are asking about. One is that
we have a slide. I
think we do. Yeah.
There we go.
I guess essentially, just as a reminder, that face coverings are required to be worn indoors and outdoors on our campus, with a couple of exceptions when one is alone in a closed room, such as an office, and while eating and drinking. And I just want to dwell on the eating and drinking question.
Right, because it's been one of the challenges
and
for us.
It's actually coming up a lot in our region, or in probably across the country, in rules around restaurants and so on. So we just want to emphasize that the ability or the allowance to remove face coverings for eating is for the eating part of the time in the dining hall, for example. So try to remember to put the face covering back on, while, if there's any, I know that the time in the dining hall is limited anyway, but during the time that you're kind of hanging out and talking among friends, if you're done eating, please put the face covering back on.
And it seems, Chris, that that's one of those things for us, and there's so many of these areas where it's like what we're asking people, just like what's in the Flyers Promise, just to remind people of that. It's really about thinking about each other and kind of, I guess what I call common sense, or not being too caught up in the letter of the law, but what's the spirit? And the spirit of this is that it's not that between each bite, you have to put your mask on. That's not what we're saying. No. But what we are saying is that many of us will, because breaking bread is an ancient tradition, right? It's a social aspect that we all love to do. But when you're kind of completed with your meal, don't kind of take advantage of the fact that you're sitting in a cafeteria and you have a plate in front of you and there's like one little bite of a hamburger left that you're really not going to eat to leave your mask off for a half hour. The point is while you're eating, you can have your mask, your face covering off, and then when you're completed with eating, if you want to continue to talk with your friends, put your mask back on just like you would if you were in a classroom setting and you were talking to somebody, or you were in a hallway. And then the other thing, if we could talk about kind of, again, the spirit of the law in terms of wearing face coverings while one's outside.
Yeah, that was my final.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about what are we trying to get people to understand in this? Because we have changed it a little bit and tried to give people guidelines. Yeah,
so we do. It is, again, great to see people wearing face coverings outside when walking around, especially when they are in groups. The essential policy is that you must wear a face covering when you cannot be physically distanced. And I guess what I want to observe, and talking to other people on campus who've been around, is that it's really, you need to wear a face covering when there's a probability or possibility that you're going to come within 6 feet of someone else. So if you're alone walking across the campus at night and there's nobody around, you don't need to wear a face covering. But if you're walking in a group of 3 people and you might veer into them and veer out and so on, please err on the side of wearing a face covering during those situations. Or if you're sitting around a group of 3 people outside studying and are 5 feet apart, we want you to be wearing a face covering for that as well.
And we have some great places that we really want people to enjoy in this outside while the weather's nice over the next month. So whether it's the balconies at the Gaffney Center, I was walking around today, and the rocking chairs at Shield, the picnic tables, there's seating, outside by the Fine Arts Center. So there's a lot of places to sit, and if you're going to sit with 3 or 4 of your friends outside, that's okay. But if you're going to be within 2 or 3 feet, leave your mask on. And most of those settings, people will be within 3 or 4 feet of each other because of just the way that it's set up. And we want you to enjoy being outside, but you can keep your face covering on.
And maybe the last thing I want to say about this bring up is that I've heard from many students and employees at Lewis in the community that they just are, it's really hard to ask someone to put their face covering on. And so I just want everyone to know that it's okay to do that, and that please, if someone asks you that, it's in the spirit of safety and in the spirit of just trying to keep our community safe, and then try to accept that suggestion with grace. And we know that there are these gray areas that we just have been talking about, and we don't, there might be, somebody might ask you to put a face covering on when you're 6 feet apart from someone, and that's just going to have to be the way it is. We want you to accept that suggestion with grace, at least while you're in that exchange with other people on campus, because it's really important to us that people feel comfortable making that suggestion to their peers and their colleagues across campus.
And just on, I guess, one more thing on this, and we've both said it, but I feel like it bears repeating. This weekend, there's 3 solid days, no classes. We have 900 students or so living residentially on campus. It's certainly understandable that some of the students who are commuter students but have good friends who are residentially might come to campus over the weekend. We're really asking all of you to abide by these guidelines: face coverings, washing your hands, keeping 6 feet, and then you can enjoy the weekend together, right? We want you to enjoy the weekend together. It's just that it's really important that we not see a spike. And you're all people who read the news. I mean, you can read news about other universities, and when they have parties that have huge numbers of people at them, they end up with big spikes, and then they end up threatening that they're going to have to send everybody home. And we don't want to be in that situation. We want to be in a situation where everyone knows what the guidelines are, and they understand the guidelines are to protect us from having those spikes and passing it along. So, enjoy yourself, but, do it, with this sense of responsibility.
Great. And I won't add to that. The final announcement I wanted to make is just another reminder for people to download the Lewis U app. You need it in order to submit symptom screening. And we had a question about that come in. So we ask or require all residential students to do symptom screening on the app every day. And here's one of our videos about using the app on the screen here. And then we ask that employees and commuter students who are coming to campus that day to fill out the symptom screening before coming to campus that day. We also use the app to report positive test results, and that would apply to anybody on campus, whether you're coming to campus or not. Anyone in our community, student or employee, please use the app or the hotline number that's been posted on many occasions to report a positive test result. And then you also need to use the app to both check into classrooms as well as to reserve spaces on campus for study spaces on campus. The thing, I guess one thing we have heard a little bit this week is to remind people that there are QR codes to check into classrooms, inside of classrooms as well as outside, so that there's no need to wait outside or congregate outside to queue in.
And so, Chris, on this front, the issue around classes and being able to scan, I know we've had some of this, but some students haven't, maybe even their first in-person classes tomorrow morning, they will not be able to scan the QR code if they have not filled out, and it took whatever we just saw in that video, 5 seconds to fill out the form. So it's not a onerous task to fill out the form every morning, but their QR code reader won't work, and they might wonder why, and the reason is because they haven't filled out the app.
That's right.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have a guest today, which we're really excited about. So Jada Hoffman, who's the president of the Student Senate, a member of both track and field teams, and a senior. And Jada, I'm pretty sure you're a communications major, is that correct?
We see you, but we can't hear you, Jada.
Or maybe it's radio and TV production. I can't hear you, Jada, but I can see you.
79.
So we'll work on that technical thing, but it's great to see you, and we're so excited to have you with us today. Maybe, can everybody else hear, but we can't? Oh, maybe? All right.
Yeah, so we really are excited to have Jada on and to talk a little bit about how the week is going from a student perspective.
Yes.
And just kind of hear about what it's like on campus right now, as well as we really wanted to hear plans for the Student Senate for the year. So I hope we can figure out a way for her to
yeah, she's working on it. And one of the things that we can talk about with this, though, which I think is really valuable for Jada, for all of the people watching this, is that so many of our classes are in a virtual online format, and sometimes this is just what happens, right? You're at home, you're trying to do your class, and then your microphone doesn't work, and it's because of something that's going on, or your Wi-Fi is challenged. And I will say that we really want, as a university, to help you out through those situations. So we have the Office of Technology, for faculty, the Faculty Center. So we have a lot of opportunities to help people out in terms of making sure that the needs that they have from a technology standpoint can be met. And it may be that you go through a frustrating period in one class because they can't hear you. Make sure you call somebody,
Yeah.
get it fixed so that by the next time that you meet in class, it's worked out. And you know, we have been very busy this week, I can say that, having talked to the director, the VP of our Office of Technology, that it's been very busy. But that's a good thing because it means we'll work through these things. So we're gonna hope that Jada is gonna be back with us, and as soon as she is, she's just gonna join us and then start talking so that we can hear and we know she's here. But as Dr. Sint said, you know, one of the things that we want to make sure we get good feedback on, you know, both the good and the bad that's going on, is for students to give us feedback. So we're trying to find as many ways as possible for students to be able to communicate with us. And you know, one of the things that is on the screen right now is the Ask Us. So if you're a student and you're watching and you have a question for us that you want to know about something in relationship to course delivery or what's going on with different aspects of campus, you can just send those questions to askus@lewisu.edu, and we will be sure to either answer them online right now, or we'll get back to you as soon as we can if it's a question we don't know off the top of our heads.
That reminds me, we did get a question that we haven't answered.
That's true.
Which is that we got a question from someone on the staff about access to the Convocation recordings. And so the answer to that is I think we will be able to provide those via email tomorrow morning, probably in Chala Dufour's Friday email. And they'll be available to employees exclusively.
So another thing that just came in on, we get these texts of the questions coming in, was about how is enrollment. So just a little, you know, to the community, it's been a good start to the year in terms of students registering for classes, and again, it's across a multitude of ways of delivery. So we have, you know, our largest number of grad students that we've had in the history of the university, which is very exciting, and that comes through growth in certain programs, but you know, a steady kind of steady growth across certain programs that have been with us since the beginning of the graduate school, and then some real growth in certain areas. But that's, you know, we've been very pleased with what the enrollment has been across the entire spectrum of our student body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's you know, it's an exciting exciting time of year. Yeah, you know, another thing that, again, one of the things that we've mentioned is just the channel. Oh, there's Jada. Jada, can we hear you?
Hi.
Nope, we can't hear her.
I can't hear you.
They said they cannot hear me.
Wait a minute.
Maybe
I can hear you, yes.
you can hear us. And I can kind of somewhat hear you, but it sounds like actually it's coming through the other room.
Yeah.
Which means it's not coming into our mic, but maybe people online. In fact, I'm going to ask the person who does our questions. So, so Ray, you're out there. Can you hear Jada on your computer?
Yes, he says yes.
All right, that's great. So, Jada, we're going to talk to you, and I'm going to kind of try to read your lips, but that might not work. But I know that everybody else can hear you, even if I can't. So, you know, so glad that you were able to join us today. So, thank you for doing that. And how has the week been?
I can't really hear him.
Looks like maybe she cannot hear us. Okay, so I think we still need to be patient.
All right, so we're going to be patient with that. It sounds like people can hear, like we can't talk to each other, but both of you on the that are watching us can hear each of us. It looks like Jada's putting on some headphones, so that's good.
Yeah, I think she can't hear us now is the problem.
So, Chris, one of the other things, you know, we did have some conversations.
Okay. We're gonna, Jada's gonna replace
great.
me.
Oh, perfect.
Let me
That is
go.
perfect, Jada. I'm excited to have you in studio.
All right. Come on in. Watch out for that pillow.
Okay.
Shoulders up.
There we go. So
Do I still have to wear the mic?
I think you do.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you do.
Yeah. Jada, it's great to have you with us. And can we get the wide angle so we can see Jada as well, or no? There we go.
Hello.
So Jada, one of the things that we wanted to ask you about was just how's the first week been? So what like as a student, and Jada did just come from working out, so we appreciate you joining us, and moving from one thing to another very quickly. But how's the first week? I mean, you've been here a couple weeks, right?
Yes,
you moved in
because
2
I
weeks
had
ago.
to help with Welcome Week with the Office of Student Activities. So I was trying to deal with the freshmen and trying to encourage them to participate in virtual events. And then I started school Monday. It's kind of been, there has its pros and cons, because the first day of classes, so on Monday, I had all in-person classes, so it kind of felt normal, but also weird, because like I couldn't sit that close to people, and we all had to wear masks on, and then we all also had like assigned seats, so I kind of felt like I was back in elementary school.
Yeah.
Having an assigned seat is just, I wasn't used to it. Like, what if I don't want to sit next to this person next week? And it's like, well, you don't have a choice. And then also the unique experience with like dining, like eating around campus has kind of been, it's definitely different, because usually when you get your food, you want to dine inside. But now it's like everyone's kind of going outside to stay away from other people, but it's also like it's cool outside, so let's just sit outside and eat. So yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that. What's your sense of how different groups of people or different students that you know are doing their eating relative to kind of inside, eating outside at a picnic table, taking it back to their room? Is it just kind of a mixture?
It's kind of a mixture, because I know last year, for example, I used to like grab my lunch and then go to class and eat it there, but now you can't really eat in class. So I try to, for lunch and breakfast, I'll grab it and go to my room and eat. But for dinner, it's kind of still trying to stick with the same groups you stick with. It's just that now you only can have 2 to 4 people at a table.
Right.
So it's like, we'll go to the dining hall, but we'll have to split up and say, okay, we'll sit here and you guys sit behind us to try to stick with each other. And then also some people are outside, like a lot of people are usually outside of the Flyers Den. That's a very popular place at nighttime, and they'll just sit at the picnic tables and eating. And it's kind of cool, just because I feel like everyone's always sitting inside, but it's like our campus is so beautiful, so everyone should just try to go outside and appreciate it.
Right.
And then I also saw a lot of people barbecuing.
Oh.
And I knew we had like barbecues on campus and stuff, but a lot of people didn't really take advantage of it. And I'm starting to see a lot of people outside and
great.
cooking their own meals as well. So it's different, but I feel like people are getting used to it. It's
Yeah.
just like the summer, like going to a restaurant and having to sit at it's a smaller capacity of people or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and I think it's, so tell me a little bit, I know one part of the app is that reservation of a table in the cafeteria. So have you used that, and does it work?
I have not used that yet, but I have heard like it being similar to a restaurant. Me and my friends, when it comes to the Brother James Gaffney building, we just go up there and eat for dinner. But for breakfast and lunch, we'll definitely like try to, as soon as the place opens, we put our order in and go to pick it up, just because sometimes it's a long line. And then I'll still, like sometimes if I have a class within the next hour, I'll sit and dine in. But if my class isn't for like 2 or 3 hours, I'll just take it back to my room. Yeah.
So, and you're the president of the Student Senate.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what's on the agenda this year. What do the students want to achieve? What are you excited about? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it's definitely weird becoming the president during a pandemic, but we're just trying to continue to emphasize that we are the liaison for students and administration, so that they can report any comments, concerns, suggestions that they have to us, so that we can put them to the right person to speak to. Or if they're too scared to do it, they're scared that that person's going to like yell at them, then we'll be able to do it. Like, there's nothing to be scared of. And we just want to emphasize that. It's a little bit hard because now we have to do everything virtually, and we have to say, here, follow us on social media, and here, check your emails, because that's kind of how we are communicating to students. So that's a big thing, trying to become the liaison. But then it's also election year, and we want to encourage everyone to vote. Register, everyone should be registered to vote. We're all young adults, we all can register, so we all should already be registered to vote, and then also voting. And we're kind of going to be working with different departments and organizations to ensure that this is a smooth and easy transition for everyone, and that it's not hard, and that no one's waiting till the day before and they're like, I don't know what to do, like I didn't vote, and it's like, oh well, next time I'll do it. It's like, no, we're gonna all get this together this year. We're not gonna wait, and so we're just trying to make sure it's a smooth transition for everyone.
Yeah. Well, that is great, and I think the focus on the election, especially between now and November, is such a key thing that we're all aware of. And as students, it's it's such a great learning experience right now in our society to think through some of the most pressing issues that we, as a country, I think have faced. In some sense, in my lifetime, to have a pandemic, to have all the issues around institutional racism that have come up, the economy is challenged, and all these things are political issues that we, as citizens, really need to put our voice where we believe, who do we want as our leader.
And it's kind of different because usually young adults try to avoid talking about this type of stuff, but I think over the summer and now it's kind of forcing people to talk about it. Like, you no longer can ignore it. Like, you kind of have to be comfortable being uncomfortable and just speak up against all these things, or speak out against what you want and what you believe in. And it's kind of hard for a lot of people, but it's also cool to see a lot of people just speaking up on things they probably never would have spoken up about.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about how, everybody's gotten back, as you said, sometimes you need 2 tables because of the distance, but you're back with your friends, you're back in these classes. What are you hearing from other students, both about this broader set of issues, that we all have been confronted with, a pandemic and, institutional racism and the kind of, really horrific things that we've seen, but then also just the coming back to campus and getting back on campus in classrooms. What are you hearing from other students?
I think a lot of people in general are just scared. A lot of people are living in fear right now, and it's kind of hard to tell people not to live in fear because it is very scary, but I think people are just scared, like, oh, well, we're gonna get sent back home, or, oh, I don't know who to vote for, I don't know how this world is gonna turn out. And I think people are just living in fear, and I don't really know how to tell them, hey, don't live in fear, because everything will be okay at the end of the day, and we just have to take it day by day. That's mainly what people are talking about. It's just fear.
Yeah. And the sense of, maybe you could say a little bit more about, where do you think students are about this issue of, their sense of the fear that we're going to have to go back home, as you said, that's the way you put it. And I think, we think about that every day as an administration. As I started this, and I don't know if you heard that, but I talked about we have a big weekend coming up with Labor Day, and it's it really is going to kind of, from my point of view, show if the students are really focused on, we want to be on campus, we want to have some of our classes in person, we want to be able to practice and be in our clubs, and we know that some of those will have to be virtually, but we hope more of them as the semester goes on can be in person. We have to kind of pull together and live by these guidelines. So what's your sense of that with students? Their sense of the, I guess I read in the news about other schools where there is a diversity of opinion among students. Some students are like, it's no big deal, and other students are like, this is really serious. So, what are you hearing from students on that?
I think over the summer, to a lot of students, it was no big deal, because in the media, it was portrayed as though young adults are invincible. They're not going to face anything that's very serious. Like, they were A-okay. But then I think as people started going back to school and seeing how other campuses were handling things, and then also how Lewis was handling things, and also being able to see the tracker and seeing that, okay, people are testing positive, and seeing how serious Lewis is taking it, students are taking it more serious and realizing that they're not invincible. I saw students at first who were like, no, I'm never going to wear a mask. And it's like, now they're wearing masks. And there were people before not wanting to put hand sanitizer. And it's like, oh, I just left here. I just finished typing on this computer. Let me go put some hand sanitizer on. I feel as though once these things are in front of them, it's kind of forcing them to be like, okay, this is actually pretty serious. And then for me, for an example, I'm an athlete, so we all kind of see how serious it takes a toll on all of us. It's like, it's not just based on one team. Like, just because one team is good doesn't mean that that team is going to be able to compete. We all have to work on this together. We're a family. And I think we're starting to realize that as we speak to our coaches and as we speak to our athletes, it's just like, yeah, this is very serious. We have to start taking it serious. And we can't be selfish. Just because one person wants to go out and do this, try to find an alternative. Like, I get we're young adults, and I get we have the need and desire to like want to go out and party and all that stuff, but there's so many other things we can do. We can do things online, we can paint, we can have trivias, we can play Uno on iMessage, GroupMe, and all that stuff. But I think a lot of people, I think they're starting to understand that it's a very serious thing, especially as they start talking to their coaches and their staff and their professors, and also just seeing all the things that Lewis is like. For example, being in class and having like the keyboards covered in plastic is like, some people probably like, oh, that's no big deal. But once they realize it, they're like, oh, wait, that is, you can kind of catch it that way. So now I have to start taking it serious.
Right.
So I think Lewis has also forced us to start taking it more serious with everything they've been doing around campus.
Yeah, so how has it been with the professors? I mean, you said you've had a few classes early in the week in person. How's that been in terms of the kind of, because it is a change in terms of both how they interact, the size of the classroom. How's that been?
I think for both us and them, it's kind of hard to adjust because we're used to being so close to people, and it's like, oh wait, no, I can't help you. I can't be that close to you anymore. It's kind of like having to distance each other. But I think it's a slow but sure transition for us all. I know for one class, for example, the person I'm sitting next to is going to be my partner for the rest of the semester. And that's a cool thing because it's like, okay, well, I'll be next to you all semester. Let's try to be besties.
Right.
But it's weird, but at the same time, I'm okay with it. I feel very safe with how Lewis is handling it. I like how you can't enter a class until you complete the COVID screening. I feel like that's a cool thing. I remember on my first day of classes, my first class, a student, she wasn't able to enter class, and I was like, oh, did you complete your screening? And she was like, no. I was like, yeah, you can't enter until you do it. And she's like, oh, okay. And I feel like that's a cool thing that Lewis is doing. And then the whole A and B thing, where the first person in the first class sits in A and then the next class sits in B, I think that's a cool thing that I wasn't expecting it. I didn't really know what to expect when I came into Lewis, because compared to other universities and other campuses who started school weeks prior, they weren't handling it how we were. So I was just like, oh, I don't really know how this is going to go for us. But I feel like it's going pretty well. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't expecting people to test positive, but I feel as though we're handling it pretty well as far as making hand wipes available, being able to clean everything wherever you are. It's like I don't just have to rely on other people to clean for me. I can also do it myself and feel comfortable. And even if I am living in fear, I can do it my way, and I don't have to rely on someone else to do it.
Yeah, it's great. And I got to say, I have been so impressed with the way that the students have, as you said, and I think it makes sense to me what you're saying. I mean, I wasn't sure how well people would do in terms of wearing face coverings and, complying by the guidelines and using their QR codes to, go into classes, but it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like you said, maybe the first day, had to remind one or two people, and you get this, people have, I think, gotten used to having a mask, but, initially the first couple days, I'd run across a person or two that would have their mask down on their neck, still around their ears, but just reminding them that they have to wear it. And, since then, I feel like I've been trying to get around campus and just walk through the halls, and it's been really good to see. I think the students are taking it seriously, and I think it is going to be, we did expect, as you said, and Dr. Stritch just said we had, we'll have 12 new cases this week, but again, that's out of about 7,000 people.
Exactly.
So we knew we'd see a little bit of a spike. We were having 1 or 2 cases a week for the month of August. So it is up, but we feel pretty good about it. And I think it's really a testament to the students and their willingness to abide by the guidelines. So it's great.
Yes, I think it's like forcing us to be adults. And I think that everyone's being an adult pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been really great to see. So are there any questions that you have of the administration, both as, president, but also just, representing students, student athletes? I know, we were on last night with all the athletes, some 400 athletes. So do you feel like there's questions that we're not getting to or that students really want to know? And I guess the other thing that I'm interested in is kind of, what are you looking forward to? Like what, as we get into November, if we're still on campus, what are you really excited about? And this is your senior year, right? So what are you excited about in terms of your senior year?
Well, I'm a junior, but I am excited to see the creative ways that people end up bonding, because it's like there's so many, like you've seen over the summer, people having like house parties on the app house parties, like we're all virtual. And I just think once people start realizing and start taking it a little bit more serious and saying, okay, no more like hanging out in large groups and start doing fun things, I'm very excited to see like all the creativity that people come up with, whether it's painting, whether it's creating something. I feel like this is a very good time for people to start creating things and entrepreneurship or something like that. I just feel like I'm very excited to see how everyone's going to handle it, because I feel like this is a very uncomfortable position for all of us as young adults, and we're all in college. We all want to go out and have fun, but I feel like you can stay in and also have fun. So once people figure that out, it'll be a great experience. Like for me and my roommates, for example, we're gonna try to create something to decorate our hallway, but it's gonna be like a craft, like an arts and craft thing. And I feel like we'll be able to bond while also not being out and about in the world and not catching corona. So I think once people get that mindset and realize it's not the end of the world and there's so many other things you can do, it'll be a good time for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, it's really been wonderful to have you on. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that the students hear from you, or things that, again, around either the Senate or just the student body in general, that you want to make sure, people hear, or that, you want to say to the students that are listening out there? And of course, what we tend to see with these is that people watch them after the fact. It's like they're watching their YouTube videos, so.
I just want to further emphasize that just because we're young doesn't mean we can't be impacted by COVID-19. I know of 3 people who have caught it, and 2 of them were under 22. And the one person who I did know who was over 22 did pass away. But one of the people that caught it happened to be like an athlete, and they weren't able to get back into the gist of things anymore. Like it was a huge struggle for them to get back and be able to breathe properly and be able to actually practice and lift and all that stuff. And then another person was actually my family member, and they weren't able to. People kind of like, oh, I don't really want to be around you for a while, and it's kind of, and I just want people to know that just because you're young doesn't mean you can't get it. I don't know where people got that information from, but we definitely can get it, and it definitely will impact us more than we can even realize it. So I just want to encourage people to not be selfish, because we're all kind of relying on each other to be adults. To continue to go to school, to continue to have in-person classes, to even compete this year. Some people are relying on a job, like people can get cut if we have to close the school. Some people don't want to go home. Some people can't go home. So try to just be an adult and don't be selfish. We'll all get through this.
That is such a great way to close. I mean, usually I try to have some insightful close, but I think you've done better than I can do, Jada. So maybe just the thanking you for joining us today. Really grateful. And I'll just repeat what Jada just said. Our students we know that they're great, responsible adults, and if they just take it seriously and understand not only the risk to themselves, but the risk to those that they care about, their teams, their classmates, the people that live in their same residence halls. I really believe that we're going to get through this, and we're going to learn a lot from it. So I hope you have a really great week and a great weekend, and thank you again, Jada, for joining us. Thank you to Dr. Christopher Sent. Have a wonderful weekend, and many blessings on you and your family.